की ISKCON founder आचार्य BBT founder आचार्य जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की निरंतर श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. All Guru assembled devotees, all Guru assembled devotees, all Guru assembled devotees, all Guru Shri Guru and Gauranga Jagat Guru Shila Prabhupada की. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, chapter 29, verse number 34. The chapter name is Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila. Manasaitāni, bhūtāni, praṇamed, bahu-mānayan, bahu-mānayan, īśvaro, jīva-kalayā, praviṣṭo, bhagavān, iti. Manasaitāni bhūtāni, praṇamed bahu-mānayan, īśvaro jīva-kalayā, praviṣṭo bhagavān iti. Manasaitāni bhūtāni, praṇamed bahu-mānayan, īśvaro jīva-kalayā, praviṣṭo bhagavān iti. īśvaro jīva-kalayā, praviṣṭo bhagavān iti. Manasaitāni bhūtāni, bahu-mānayan, īśvaro jīva-kalayā, praviṣṭo bhagavān iti. Mataji. Manasaitāni bhūtāni, med bahu-mānayan, īśvaro jīva-kalayā, praviṣṭo bhagavān iti. Manasa, with the mind, etāni, of these, bhūtāni, living entities, praṇamet, he offers respects, bahu-mānayan, showing regard, īśvaraḥ, the controller, jīva, of the living entities, kalayā, by his expansion as the Supersoul, praviṣṭaḥ, has entered, bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, iti, thus. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Such a perfect devotee offers respect to every living entity because he is under the firm conviction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity as the Supersoul or controller. Let's read together. Such a perfect devotee offers respects to every living entity because he is under the firm conviction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity as a supersoul or controller. Purport. A perfect devotee, as described above, does not make the mistake of thinking that because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Paramātmā, has entered into the body of every living entity has become the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is foolishness. Suppose a person enters into a room, that does not mean that the room has entered that person. Similarly, the Supreme Lord has entered into each of the 8,400,000 particular types of material bodies, does not mean that each of these bodies has become the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord is present. However, a pure devotee accepts each body as a temple of the Lord, and since the devotee offers respect to such temples in full knowledge, he gives respect to every living entity in relationship with the Lord. Māyāvādī philosopher wrongly think that because the Supreme Person has entered the body of a poor man, the Supreme Lord has become daridra-nārāyaṇa or poor Narayan. These are all blasphemous statements of atheists and non-devotees. Thus ends the purport. Om ajñānatimirandasya jñānāñjana-śalākaya chakshur unmilitam ena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhūtale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, so this is a discussion between Lord Kapila and Mother Devahuti. And the name of the chapter itself says the Lord Kapila explains devotional service, correct? And from these verses, the main theme of these verses and in the past verses is that where Lord Kapila is emphasizing on seeing the Supersoul in every living entity and offering respects to every living entity. So that's the main theme, and all these verses are kind of discussing the same theme. So, what's the instruction? The instruction is to offer respects to every living entity and to constantly see the Supersoul in every living entity. And this is devotional service, right? And we all know that devotional service is of 9 types. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So, there are 9 types. So, when Lord Kapila is instructing Mother Devahuti to practice seeing the Lord everywhere as a Supersoul and offer respects, which limb of bhakti is he recommending? Is it Shravanam or is it Kirtanam or which one? Okay, someone from the top. Smaranam. Okay, anyone else? Anyone thinks that everybody agrees that is it Smaranam, or do you think that this is any other limb of? Yeah, so when Lord Kapila is telling Mother Devahuti to offer respects to every living entity and to see the Supersoul in every living entity, so it's a devotional practice, right? And we know devotional practices of 9 types. So this specific recommendation falls into which category? Yeah. You go with Archanam, right? Archanam basically means, generally Archanam is translated as worship or deity worship, right? So that is what you say, Archanam. Okay, anybody else? Like, what do you think? Someone says Smaranam and Bhagavān Prabhu says Archanam. So, what is the practice, what Mother Devahuti is practicing here? It is Ashtanga Yoga, mixed with Bhakti Yoga, right? It is meditation process. And can you think of any other example from Bhagavatam who did kind of similar practice, meditation, and achieved perfection? Dhruva Maharaj, exactly. So what was Dhruva Maharaj doing? Dhruva Maharaj, Mother Devahuti, they all same category. They are all practicing meditation. And in the meditation, what is the main limb of bhakti? What is the chief element? How do we practice devotional service when one is meditating? It is through Smaranam, meditation, remembrance. It is Smaranam. It is smaranam. So the same thing continues over here also. When Lord, I mean, I'm sure we can give reasons to others also. I mean, we are just trying to find the best answer. I mean, I'm sure there are more than one right answer, but we are just trying to fit in what fits the best over here. So basically here the main emphasis is smaranam actually. Because you see, what's the recommendation? The recommendation is always think of the Super Lord, I mean the Super Soul. So you're always thinking, it's smaranam, always remembering the Lord and seeing the Super Soul in every living entity and offering respects. Offering respects is a consequence. But the main practice is to see Super Soul in every living entity. So it means that we are constantly remembering and thinking of the Lord. So it is smaranam. And Dhruva Maharaj, if you see also, Dhruva Maharaj, when he achieved perfection through constant remembrance or through meditation practice, what happened? How did he achieve perfection? What happened when Dhruva Maharaj finally got the perfection? Dhruva Maharaj, basically, he finally sees the Lord face to face, correct? Because his meditation breaks and he sees Lord face to face. So that means that Dhruva Maharaj here has achieved perfection. And in the perfection, Dhruva Maharaj did not merge with the Supreme Lord, right? Because that basically shows that even after achieving perfection, one retains one's individuality. So that's the main point. Because Māyāvādī philosophers, they say that once when you achieve perfection, then one merges into the Supreme Lord. But that is not how the experience of Dhruva Maharaj is. Or that is not even the experience of Mother Devahuti is. Because when you see Dhruva Maharaj in the 4th canto, how does Dhruva Maharaj experience liberation? When Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respects. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj, in ecstasy, looked upon Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth and embracing the Lord with his arms. So here we see the example of Dhruva Maharaj, who has achieved perfection by meditation and constantly remembering the Lord, and the Lord has appeared before him, and we can see all the different experiences Lord Dhruva Maharaj is experiencing, but there is no explanation or there is no reference where it is said Dhruva Maharaj merged into the body of Supreme Lord. No, he remained an individual person, and the Lord remained the Lord, and the Dhruva Maharaj remained Dhruva Maharaj. His individuality is retained. So, a lot of times, people who are practicing any type of yoga process, the aim is same. The aim is liberation. So, but however, what happens after liberation, that's $1 million question. Because everybody says differently. Some people say you merge and some people say you don't merge, right? But now we have to go by the examples of people who has already achieved perfection. And Dhruva Maharaj is one such example. And Mother Devahuti is also one more example. So what happened to Mother Devahuti? It is going to come in the upcoming chapters. The last chapter of the 3rd canto, over there it explains how is Mother Devahuti experiencing the liberation. What is she feeling? I mean, what was the experience? What is the bodily transformation that are happening in her, in her body? Of course, it's an elaborate explanation, but we don't have time to go through everything. But just here, just a glimpse of it. How is Mother Devahuti experiencing liberation? She became situated in knowledge due to realization of the absolute truth. Her heart became purified. She became fully absorbed in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all misgivings due to the modes of material nature has disappeared. Her mind became completely engaged in the Supreme Lord, and she automatically realized the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. As the Brahman realized the soul, she was freed from the designations of material conception of life, and thus all material pangs disappeared, and she attained the transcendental bliss. You see, a lot of times people, they openly claim that they have achieved self-realization. They say that they are realized souls. And sometimes even they will give you a date on which day they got self-realized. They will say October 11, 2022, I got self-realized. They will tell you that. So, but the problem is, a lot of people, they don't know what it means to be self-realized. Because when someone says they are self-realized, there are specific qualities. There are specific, qualities we'll see in a person what it means to be a liberated or what it means to be a self-realized. And by knowing the examples of Mother Devahuti and Dhruva Maharaj, we see what is their experience, how are they feeling, what is happening in their heart, right? Those are the symptoms of a realized person. And you can see here, the misgivings due to the modes of material nature have disappeared. All the three gunas, there are no more influence of three modes of material nature. And one automatically has achieved the Brahman realization. They have already achieved the realization of the Brahman feature. And in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, we can also see how he is feeling the transcendental ecstasy in his heart by seeing the Lord. So these are some of the qualities, or these are some of the symptoms a person should be experiencing when someone claims that he is a self-realized person. And the other important thing is that, here also we can see that Mother Devahuti did not merge into the Supreme Lord. No, she still remained as an individual person. You see, there is nowhere mention of Mother Devahuti merging into the impersonal Brahman. She achieved the impersonal realization, but that doesn't mean that she merged into Brahman realization. And that is where, in the same verse, Prabhupada makes a very interesting statement, where he says that when one theoretically discusses the absolute truth, he becomes situated in the impersonal concept of absolute truth. Similarly, when one seriously discusses the subject matter of the form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes situated in the meditation on him. You see? So this is a full package. Basically, it's not that Brahman realization is the ultimate realization, even though one achieves it, and that one can achieve that Brahman realization even by some theoretical understanding of the absolute truth. But the ultimate perfection is one when achieves a bhagavān realization, and that is only achieved by one meditating on the Lord's form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage. And that is what Mother Devahuti is doing in this chapter also. In the current chapter what we are reading, that is what Lord Kapila is explaining, the Lord's name, forms, and pastimes. In this chapter and the upcoming chapters also we see. So this is also a part of the process. This is also part of the self-realization process. Because you see, there are three things: Sat, Chit, and Ananda, right? So what is Sat? Sat is truth, existence. And in the Sat feature, one realizes the Brahman feature. But in the Chit feature, that is where is knowledge feature, or consciousness, or awareness, right? So that is what Mother Devahuti is doing it here, where is a knowledge. She is getting the knowledge of the absolute truth of this, not just Brahman realization, but all the form, qualities, and pastimes. So it is a Chit realization. What happens in the Chit realization? Sat realization, one realizes the impersonal Brahman. And in Chit feature, one realizes the Paramātmā feature. And Ananda is a bliss. That is where one realizes the full bhagavān realization. So currently what we are reading is, the focus is mainly on the Paramātmā realization, and so the focus is mainly on the knowledge feature of the Lord. So that is why the emphasis is given here more on the Paramātmā. That is why you see Lord Kapila is telling Paramātmā, Paramātmā. You hear the word often again and again in this chapter. Because that is a process of meditation. See, meditation, Paramātmā feature, what can you do with Paramātmā feature? You cannot worship Paramātmā feature. It's not like a deity where you can do some abhishek or some archana process. Paramātmā feature mainly is worshipped mainly through smaranam, through remembrance. That is what Dhruva Maharaj has done, and that is what even Mother Devahuti is also doing right now, on remembrance, smaranam of the Paramātmā feature. And this Paramātmā feature is actually a very interesting feature. And a lot of people who practice the Jnana Yoga process or the Ashtanga Yoga process or the impersonal Māyāvādī philosophers, they are mainly interested in the meditation or Ashtanga Yoga process, and they are mainly interested in realizing the impersonal Brahman. And for them, the highest knowledge for them is actually the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Because if you look at Yoga Sutras of Patanjali also, let's see how is Patanjali describing liberation, or how is Patanjali experiencing, or the describing what happens to a person when one achieves perfection. The last Yoga Sutra, which is Purushartha Shunyanam Gunanam Prati Prasavaha Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishtha Va Chit Shaktir Iti. So this is the last Yoga Sutra. What happens when one achieves liberation or kaivalyam? Purushartha shunyam. What is Purushartha? Purushartha means material desires. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So no more. Shunyam. Shunyam means zero. Means there are no more material desires. Gunanam prati prasavaha. What happens to the three modes of material nature? They merge back into the pradhana. And kaivalyam, that is liberation. Swarupa pratishtava chit shaktir iti. Then the seer abides in his own essential nature. At liberation, material desires and gunas disappear and the seer is situated in his own essential nature. So this is how Patanjali describes what happens when a person achieves kaivalyam. And the same thing is further corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 6. Over there also, Dhyana Yoga, Krishna explains what happens when one achieves samadhi. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. You see here, you look at this line, ability to see self by the pure mind. Now a question can be asked, okay, the pure mind is there, but who is seeing it? You see? There should be some person seeing it, right? And relish and rejoice the self. Okay, relish by whom? There should be a person to rejoice, right? And one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. Okay, happiness is there, but who is experiencing happiness? A person should be experiencing happiness, right? So what it means is that you go back to the line here, Swarupa Pratishtha. What is Swarupa? Swarupa means form. So the form doesn't disappear even after liberation. You see, because form is still required. Just like, for example, you say that I'm getting a nice smell. Okay, where is the smell coming from? The smell is coming from an object, right? You see a rose flower is smelling nice, but that quality of smell is ingrained in an object, right? You say this is beautiful. Beautiful what? The object is beautiful, right? So the quality is always ingrained in an object. There cannot be quality without an object. Suppose I say that, okay, you know what, I'm getting nice smell. Where am I getting nice smell? No, from nowhere. It doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, no, there should be an object, and object has a qualities, right? That is, qualities and quality is something always connected to an object. So same way, when Krishna is explaining that one experiences a transcendental happiness, but who is experiencing the transcendental happiness? There should be a person. That means that the form remains even after liberation. The form doesn't disappear. Just like the Māyāvādī says that the form disappears, that does not actually go in line with neither Bhagavad Gita, nor the Patanjali, nor the experiencing of any pure devotee. It doesn't go with any experience, right? So that is the most important thing. That is what we need to understand. And Prabhupada actually, in the commentary to this verse in Bhagavad Gita, he explains the last Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, and he explains what actually Patanjali means. So this is a purport of Prabhupada, where he says, after nirvana or material cessation, there is manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional activities to the Lord as Krishna consciousness. In other words, Bhagavatam, Swarupena Vyavastita. What is Swarupena Vyavastita? This is a Yoga Sutra. This is a real life of the living entity. Maya or illusion is a conditioned life of spiritual life contaminated by material infection. Liberation from this material infection does not mean destruction of the original eternal position of the living entity. Patanjali also accepts this by his words, Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishtava Chit Shaktir Iti. This Chit Shakti, transcendental pleasure, is a real life. And this transcendental pleasure is experienced by a person, a jiva, an individual living entity. That is why the word used here is Swarupena. Swarupena is a very, very important word here. So this is one refutation of the Māyāvādī's understanding of liberation and what happens after liberation. But of course, once someone can ask a question, then why is Patanjali not describing all these things? He doesn't describe all these things. He just says that Swarupena Vyavashitam and he just ends the chapter. He doesn't experience what happens to a person after liberation. He doesn't explain that. And there is a reason why he doesn't explain that. The reason is very simple. The reason is, we have a yoga ladder. We have karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and bhakti yoga. So dhyana yoga is not the ultimate. Dhyana yoga, after dhyana yoga, there is bhakti yoga. So that is why Lord Patanjali, he just leaves it there, because now he leaves it for Bhagavatam to further take it ahead to further describe what happens after liberation, what is devotional activities, right? So that is the reason why he doesn't explain so much about what happens after liberation. But from the various examples like Mother Devahuti or Dhruva Maharaj, we can understand what happens to a person after liberation, that how he is engaged in the spiritual and devotional activities, and how a person does not lose his individuality even after achieving liberation. So that is one main point what Prabhupada is covering in the purport of the individuality. And now if we go back to the translation, such a perfect devotee offers respects to every living entity because he is under the firm conviction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity as a Supersoul or controller. There is a pastime in fourth canto between Lord Shiva and Daksha Prajapati. So as you know, Daksha, he was appointed to be a Prajapati by Lord Brahma. And when he was appointed, he became very proud and he became very arrogant that now he is the chief Prajapati. And because when he became Prajapati, as a part of that he is supposed to perform a ritualistic ceremony. I don't know exactly what it is, but he is supposed to perform a ritualistic ceremony. And he invites everybody, but he does not invite Lord Shiva, right? Because there is some animosity between both of them. He does not invite Lord Shiva because the reason is because prior to that, when Daksha was entering the assembly, everybody was standing up and offering their respects. But Lord Shiva, he does not stand up. He just, he will just remain seated. And Daksha, by looking at that, he got very, upset and he got very angry that how is this person not offering me respect? Even Brahma is offering me respect. Even Brahma is standing up, but Shiva is still sitting in his chair. He doesn't. Brahma didn't stand up? He offered. Yeah, he offered something, I guess. He offered words of appreciation, but he did not stand up. Okay. But Lord Shiva, he didn't do either. He neither stood up nor he offered any respects to Daksha Prajapati. So he was just simply sitting like that. So Daksha became very, upset. And keeping that grudge in his heart, he did not invite. And seeing everybody going to Daksha's ceremony, Mother Parvati or Sati, she wanted to go. She, because it's his father's house and the father is, conducting such a big ceremony and everybody is going and she doesn't want to be left out. And that is where there is a conversation between Mother Parvati and Lord Shiva. Because in the previous chapter there is no explanation why Lord Shiva did not stand up. There is no explanation. But in the conversation between Mother Parvati and Shiva, Shiva explains why he did not stand up, why he did not offer his respects. He explains that. It's a very interesting explanation. I mean, these kind of reasons, it is like beyond imagination. So that is where Lord Shiva says, see, we must understand why am I offering obeisances to anybody. Suppose, let's say I am there and I am offering obeisances to somebody. What is the concept? What is the principle behind that? The principle is very, clear. Lord Shiva says in the 4th canto, 3rd chapter, 22, but who are elevated to the transcendental platform, being intelligent, offer such respects to the Supersoul who is sitting within the body, not to the person who identifies with the body. This is very interesting, right? Because whenever we offer respects to somebody, we think that I'm offering respects to you. I like you, I offer respects. I don't like you, I'm just gonna, walk away, right? But that is not the understanding. That is not the understanding when we offer obeisances to somebody. The understanding is that when I am offering obeisances to you, I am worshipping the Lord within your heart. I am worshipping the Supersoul in your heart. So there is no need for Daksha to become so proud that I am not offering obeisances to you. Because ultimately you are not qualified to receive obeisances. Ultimately the Lord in your heart is the one whom I am offering respect, and he is the only one who is qualified to receive the respect. But Daksha was arrogant. Daksha was thinking that all these people are offering obeisances to him, but that is not the thing. Okay, then you can say, then why is Lord Shiva not offering? I mean, he could have offered it, right, anyway. But he says that, see, the thing with Lord Shiva is that he is already in the Brahmabhuta platform. And when a person is in the Brahmabhuta platform, he is already offering respects to every constantly offering respects to everybody. So he doesn't need to separately offer respects to Daksha. You see what I'm saying? That is why Lord Daksha, for Lord Shiva, it is not that now I'm offering obeisances and after that I'm not offering. No, for him his whole life is offering obeisances to the Supreme Lord. So he didn't bother. He didn't bother to separately offer obeisances to Daksha Prajapati. But Daksha doesn't know this. So that is why, he has an animosity with Lord Shiva. So this is an instruction for us also. Because when we offer respects, that is what it says, right, in the translation. A devotee offers respects to every living entity because he is under the firm conviction that Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity. So for us also, we don't need to discriminate. We don't need to see that I like this person, I don't like this person, I don't feel like offering obeisances. No. We offer obeisances to everybody. We offer respects to everybody. And the understanding behind that is that we are ultimately offering our respects to the Supreme Lord who is situated in everybody's heart. So there is no need for us to discriminate anybody as such. And interestingly, in the purport of this verse, Prabhupada says that Vaishnava means offering respect to Vishnu. It is also stated that as a matter of etiquette, as soon as a Vaishnava, as soon as one sees a Vaishnava, one must immediately offer him respect, indicating that Supreme Soul is sitting within. A Vaishnava does not see the body. Vaishnava sees the body as a temple of Vishnu. Since Shiva has already offered respects to Supersoul in Krishna consciousness, offering respect to Daksha, who identified with his body was already performed. Lord Shiva already offered, but Daksha doesn't know that. And one more thing he says is that even the spiritual master offer obeisances to his disciple. I mean, usually in a Vaishnava etiquette, there is a way, right? Like, you be friendly with your equals, you give, blessings to your juniors and respects to the seniors. Sometimes it may be surprising, then why is spiritual master offering obeisances to his disciples? Because spiritual master is obviously, in a higher situation than his disciple. But even we see sometimes Prabhupada also sometimes offering, obeisances to all his disciples. So it can be a little bit confusing, right? And why is spiritual master offering obeisances? This is the understanding. The understanding is very simple. The understanding is that even the spiritual master, when he is offering obeisances to his disciple, he is offering to the Supreme Soul, because he is seeing the Supreme Soul in everybody. So there is no need for us to discriminate even when a spiritual master himself is offering obeisances to his disciple. Right? And this is a Vaishnava culture. This is where a mundane social etiquette and a mundane good manners differentiates from the Vaishnava culture. Because Vaishnava culture has a whole different value system, you see. It is even much more profound than a mundane, good culture or good habits which generally we people follow, right? But we can see here that how a Vaishnava etiquette or how a Vaishnava culture is much more deeper and much more, comprehensive and in all these topics, especially offering respects to somebody. And oftentimes, what happens is that Vaishnava culture is something, it has to be taught and it has to be trained. Otherwise, it is very difficult to understand all these concepts and the principles behind the Vaishnava culture. And even the simple thing like offering respects to somebody, there is such a deep philosophy, there is such a deep understanding behind all these things. And when one does not understand these things, it becomes very challenging, right? Because oftentimes people, they come up with their own standards or they come up with their own understandings. And oftentimes these understandings are based upon their own social upbringing or their own way of life, what they were taught by their parents or what they were taught by the society. And most of the times they align with Vaishnava culture, but sometimes does not align. And sometimes it is even opposite to Vaishnava culture also. So that is why Vaishnava culture is something very unique and someone has to be taught and someone has to be trained. Otherwise we don't get a full understanding. Just like, I will give you one example. For example, in the Varnashrama system, when there is a husband and wife, usually when the wife cooks and the husband eats, usually the husband eats first, right? And then the wife eats next after the husband finishes. That's a Vedic culture, right? But if you come to the Vaishnava culture, actually we don't differentiate between the men and women. It's not that, okay, men should be served first, and then after that you serve women next. No, that is not the Vaishnava culture. Vaishnava culture, you don't differentiate between men and women. That is why when you're serving prasad, you serve prasad equal to men and women. You don't differentiate men and women. Generally in the Vedic society, you see that, men should go first, women should come second. No, it's not a Vaishnava culture. Vaishnava culture, men and women go at the same time. I mean, this may be something a little bit different, but that is what it is, right? And one more example I'll give you. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is stated that in front of the deity, or in the Yajna-shala, when there's an yajna going on, we don't offer separate obeisances to every individual. We offer one equal respects to everybody. Because in front of the Lord, we are not supposed to differentiate that you are senior, you are junior, we don't do that. Everybody is equal in front of the Lord. So these things are fine Vaishnava culture, which is difficult to grasp unless someone is really trained and unless someone knows the philosophy. So anyway, so the verse today is talking about the importance of seeing the Supersoul, and the consequence of that is offering respects to everybody and not discriminating anybody, and trying to understand this philosophy. It will help us that how we should behave in the assembly of devotees and how our consciousness should be when dealing with the devotees, and not only devotees, everybody, because you see the Supersoul is present everywhere. So in that sense, everybody is worthy of receiving our respects. Okay, so I'd like to end my class here. Any questions or comments?
Were you saying that in Vaishnava culture it's not a question, men don't go first, it doesn't matter, or what?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because it is said that especially in front of the deity, we are not supposed to discriminate that someone is higher, someone is lower. No, we don't do that, because in front of the deity we give equal respects to everybody, and that is an instruction in Hari Bhakti Vilas.
So why is it that Srila Prabhupada had the men chant the verse first and then the women chant it afterwards? He always did it like that. So how do you understand that?
Yeah, I mean, he might have said that, but there is nothing wrong if it is done opposite also. Because see, many times what happens is that when Prabhupada was preaching, especially in India, he is trying to follow the social etiquette, what it is there. But in many times, he compromises the social etiquette when it is in the US. I mean, in the US, there are so many things which Prabhupada was fine with it, right? Like, especially like, for example, like ladies playing mridangam. Like, usually ladies don't play mridangam in India, but here, Prabhupada was okay with that. So, sometimes devotees, they don't want to disturb the existing social fabric, and sometimes they seem to be like just going with the flow. But that doesn't mean that that's an absolute Vaishnava culture. Even if it is done otherwise, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, I understand in India there may be, certain things you do, but
right.
In America, you always had the men chant the sloka first, and then the women said, you always did it like that.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, that may be a particular instance, but in general, the principle is that we are not supposed to discriminate. Because, especially in front of the deity, I mean, it is even said that in front of the deity, we are not even supposed to offer, wash even one's own spiritual master's feet. Because when the deity is there, the deity is the supreme and everybody is equal. So if you want to worship the guru, one's supposed to close the doors and worship one's guru. But the implementation can vary based on time, place, circumstances. But the principle is that, I mean, even if we, let's say that even if we discriminate to some extent, but let's not take it to the extreme. That's the whole point. Okay. Anyway, so,
I just want to see if I've understood the point.
Yeah.
So here's like a hypothetical situation. You go to a kingdom.
Correct.
And you're in the court of the king, but he's not there at the moment. But a lot of his servants come in. So these are the servants of the king. So you offer respect.
That is true.
Okay.
Correct.
Then another time, the king is there. You come you're in the courtyard or whatever, and the king is there. So you're offering respects to the king. You're whatever, and the servants come in. You don't do anything. Because there's no need. You know,
That is true.
the reason
Yes.
you're offering respects to the servants of the king is
Exactly.
their relationship to the
Exactly,
king.
exactly.
But if you're directly offering respects to the king, then
Wonderful.
when the servants come in, you don't.
Yeah,
You know.
perfect. Excellent analogy. Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. Yeah, we'll go there and then we'll come there. Okay. Am I discriminating or no? Right.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Also, a little bit of clarification. It seems like there is a lot of emphasis on, the reason we're offering obeisances to someone is because the Supersoul is in the heart.
Yeah.
But is it not also correct to offer obeisances to that individual soul who is a part of Krishna? I mean, that soul is part and parcel of Krishna. And what to speak if that soul is a Vaishnav, offering them respects
So that is there. I mean, you see, ultimately, we cannot separate out Atma and Paramātmā, you see. I mean, they are together every time. Just like the example of two birds, the two birds always exist together. There is no time when the soul exists separate and Paramātmā exists separate. So the divinity goes along with the jiva, and the divinity is coming from the Paramātmā. So even though for the understanding purpose, we kind of differentiated it like there are two different things, but ultimately they're together. We cannot really differentiate it like that. I mean, can you imagine a situation where the soul is without Supersoul? No.
Yeah.
The soul is always a Supersoul. So
like in the example, we mentioned like Srila Prabhupada offering his obeisances to all the devotees in the room. It's not that he just did that only to offer obeisances to the Supersoul. I mean, I imagine he's actually offering his obeisances to the devotees.
that is true. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful. Correct, yeah, because they are they're inseparable, actually, in one sense.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure, definitely.
So there is a principle of social etiquette also, though.
Right.
And in other words, you are paying your obeisance to the Supersoul within the soul.
Yeah, exactly.
But the idea is too that there is a social etiquette that one has to observe also in terms of association, of being able to live together in a society.
That is true.
There has to be recognition of social etiquette.
Yeah, for sure, definitely, yes.
Yeah, so, in terms of offering obeisances, yes, you should, like for instance, if your Guru Maharaj walks into the temple right here,
Correct, yes, definitely.
for social etiquette,
Sure, definitely.
we'll all offer our respects to him considering his position and
Correct.
his activity.
That is true. Yeah. So let's see the bottom line. What is the bottom line? I mean, instead of looking at what are we trying to achieve, we can also see what are we not trying to achieve or what are we trying to avoid. What we are trying to avoid is very simple. What we are trying to avoid is that we don't want to create unnecessary jealousy between in the community of devotees. Because what happens is that it's a human psychology. Let's say that there are 10 people and you praise one person too much, then what will other 9 feel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they feel bad. I mean, they feel that, you're not respecting them, right? So now what happens is that now our action has created a negative feelings among the devotees. I mean, they are fine. But now when you overly praise one person, then other people are feeling bad, right? Now we become responsible. So that we should avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there is a consensus among all the devotees that yes, he's a senior, and you offer, everybody is fine with that. Nobody is going to say that. But let's say that, I'll give one example. Like one day we do the arti, we pass the arti, right, from person to person. Like, he was telling that there are 2 devotees, and then he was about to take the arti, but he didn't give it to him. He gave it to the other person. And then he felt that, do you think that he's senior to me?
Yeah.
You think that he's better than me? You see, I mean, it creates unnecessary negative feelings among the devotees, which we want to avoid. So that is a bottom line we need to keep off.
And also in terms of a relationship, there's also what we consider like affection.
Right.
There's also deep heart affection.
That is true, yes.
And you want to do that out of your deep affection for that particular individual.
Exactly.
And you express it by social
express. Yeah, we have to express
interaction.
it. Yeah. But we just need to be mindful of others also. That others don't feel like left out or others don't feel jealous because you're like, something like that. Because it's a natural human psychology we need to be aware of.
Exactly.
Yes, you said something right at the end there that I kind of picked up on, about how if the spiritual master comes in and you want to worship him, you got to close the...
Yes.
But, you probably heard the other one, where it's if you're worshiping the deity and the spiritual master comes in, you stop worshiping the deity. I'm sure you've heard that, right? And
Yeah, that is actually not only
How do
spiritual
you
master.
reconcile the two?
Yeah. So that is not only to the deity. Actually, there is a Prabhupada statement. It is said that, let's say Pujari is worshipping the deity, and let's say some guest, it doesn't have to be anybody, it just could be anybody. Then I read it long time back, that a Pujari is supposed to stop the deity worship and take care of the guest. Something like that.
I never heard that.
Yeah, I've heard something like
But
that.
I heard the thing with the spiritual master.
the
If you're
spiritual master.
worshiping the deity and the spiritual master comes in, or
Correct.
some great devotee comes
Right.
in, then you can stop worshiping the deity and...
Yeah. So see, when I said this verse from Hari Bhakti Vilas, that is not dealing with one devotee. It is telling when there are multiple devotees, we're not supposed to discriminate. That's the spirit. But if there's one person, that's all right. But when there's multiple people, we're not supposed to discriminate too much between them. That is the spirit of that verse, what is being said there. Okay. Thank you very much.
Jai.
And Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So bring it back. Who did you just pay obeisances to right now? Huh? Prabhupada? Prabhupada?